This is Earl Amin with the 2020 Foresight Podcast, where CEOs of small to global companies share their insights. It is 6 questions in 9 minutes because top CEOs know how to listen and be concise. So let's get to it. First of all, welcome. And in just a few sentences, tell us who you are and what you do.
Hi, good morning, Earl. Thanks for having me. My name is Jeff True. I'm the president and general manager of a company called All American Ruidoso Downs, LLC. We run a racetrack, we run a casino, and we have a horse sale. Basically a three-legged business that relies on all three of those parts to make it and to do well. We're here in Ruidoso, New Mexico.
Very good, very good. Well, being that this is a very interesting business that you're in, what's the best thing about being the CEO of your company?
I think the best thing is the ability to manage businesses from a single point that really touches three very diverse parts of the economy and the world. We're a tourism driver here in our area. It's a tourism area up in the mountains of central New Mexico. And we've been, the property that we've acquired 3 or 4 years ago is a 70-plus-year-old property. So it's the most interesting thing, the most enjoyable thing is the ability to carry that legacy forward. Because in our business and the horse racing business, we have a unique space, the ability to have the legacy of 70 years of horse racing and all the champions that have been through here, to have an impact on the broader business, not just in the New Mexico area, but in the Southwest and overall in horse racing. It's an enjoyable and somewhat prominent position that I take very seriously.
Oh, indeed. Prominence would be a good use of term, yes. Now, I'm sure throughout your career and certainly throughout my own, I've heard from other CEOs that leading your team and being able to see the road ahead, what lies ahead, can be a challenge. What are your thoughts?
I'm a 1963 model, not to give it away too quickly, but it's, nothing in my lifetime compares to what we've experienced in the last 12 weeks. As I mentioned, we run a casino. That casino opened yesterday for the first time in 53 weeks.
Wow.
Having that's it's probably more than a third of our revenue, right? So it's been
Right.
gone for a year, but all during that year, the ability to keep staff focused, to keep the business on the road, without going completely off in the ditch.
Mhm.
Um, Looking ahead has been one of the most challenging parts of the business. When we were shut down in March, we negotiated with powers that be, the governor's office, to open in May. And they said, well, you got to be prepared to be closed in June. And we said, well, we'll take that risk. This thing looks
Yeah.
like it's pretty short term. And we
Mhm.
know the rest of the story. So
Right.
looking ahead, being able to look around the corner when nobody knew has
Right.
been the most challenging period in my professional life, and probably for others as well. But I think what I would say about having to overcome that and how do you look forward it, I think what we did most successfully was to get the ownership, because we're privately owned. It's an LLC, but it's a privately owned business.
Right.
Getting the ownership, the leadership, meaning my senior team, and the staff
Right.
aligned with the expectations, good, bad, and down the middle. Right? Here's the worst thing that can happen, guys. The worst thing is we go completely out of business. But I don't
Yeah.
think that's going to happen, and here's why. The best thing that can happen, folks, is we could open in 30 days or 2 weeks, or get the notice that we can open, and then we can start rebuilding our business. And then here's the down the middle thing that looks most likely. So I think alignment is the best way to overcome uncertainty.
Mhm.
It's probably the best way to look forward, even in good times, right? We want to give the business an expectation. And if you're gonna have people aligned with that expectation, then that deal, you have to be communicating with them regularly. You have to be giving the same message. You have to have a prepared message. I tend to be the guy that sits in the room and wants to postulate. I want to get the senior team in the room and say, here's the problem.
Yeah.
Try to face it
Yeah.
objectively and say, what do you guys think? What's the worst thing? What's the best
Right.
thing? What do we really think can happen? And that really allays a lot of fears of the unknown, which,
Yeah.
the
Sure.
staff fear the unknown the worst.
Yeah.
The fear, will I
Well,
ever get a job?
I certainly think, Jeff, that that was a massive piece of wisdom and insight. I think you've already answered my next question, which was, what piece of insight do you want to share with and for other CEOs? If there's any nugget you want to draw out of that.
One of the things that I have the biggest challenge with is getting to know personally my senior team. And because we've got such a diverse business, I've got a large senior team. There's a dozen people that sit in that senior management meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Each one of them has a personal story that they bring to work with them. And we all try to talk about work-life balance and, leave the work at work and the home at home. But the fact of the matter is that people come to the office with a predisposition, and that's affected by their personal life. And again, drawing on this pandemic, the last 12 months, people are coming to work with different health issues, different family issues related to that health deal. They've got different beliefs. And while we try to educate people about, the truth for the pandemic and deal with the truth, people come to work with all these certain influences. And so I struggle to balance not necessarily my personal stuff, which I of course have, but each of those senior staff members, how do I balance what they're going through with what I need from them in that senior management meeting and what their respective staffs need from them?
Yeah.
That's the difficult piece. So if there's any advice there, it's try to spend a couple of minutes understanding, the top 2 or 3 issues that person's dealing with.
Right. As a person.
It's
Very
it's
good.
hard. It's hard for me, especially.
Sure. No doubt. Well, as the head, as the CEO, throughout your career, what other successful CEOs like yourself would you like to here and now give a shout out to, and should be on my podcast?
There's a couple of people that I would name, and it was a person who was the CEO of the first public company that I worked for about 20 years ago. He came from the newspaper business to a new gaming business. He was one of those CEOs that really could skip across segments. His name is Chuck Champion, and he ran ubet.com. He came from the Chicago Tribune and the Washington Post and came into a gaming business and the online business when the internet was just emerging, and we had an ideal business for it. He's a great guy, and he's in California running some publishing companies. The second one would be a guy that I just spent the weekend with in San Antonio, Texas. His name is Butch Wise. He was the immediate past president of the American Quarter Horse Association, the largest horse breed registry in the world with more than 7 million horses registered worldwide. It's a giant organization. He's been in it from the beginning. I worked for him in the 80s, believe it or not. But he has led his organization, a large ranch in Oklahoma, but also this association of like-minded people that promote the business. And Butch would be a great guy to talk to. He's very well versed in a lot of different business segments and a great leader.
Very good. Thank you for that. Now, Jeff, for the final question, how do you celebrate a win?
That's the the question that I struggled with the most. I don't do a lot of celebrating. I think, for me personally, achieving a win is really about reflecting on what it took to get there and viewing the next goal from that perspective. I tend to be a glasses half full guy, but I try to prevent myself from really taking too much solace in a win. And I start looking for the next win. And that's, to me, satisfying that I can look at it from the next platform.
Right. Very good. I get that. I really do. Well, Jeff, it's been a pleasure having you on. How can people find you?
Ruidoso.com is our website. Got all the information about the things that we do. And I'm on LinkedIn. pretty regularly.
All
So
right.
that's a good place to find me and see what I'm about.
Very good. This is Earl Amin with the 2024 Side Podcast. For more insights, go to LinkedIn and search for the Gray Owl Company. Jeff, thank you very, very much.
Thanks, Earl.